Nakrin here with attorney Suri Chadha Jimenez joining us. Suri, appreciate you coming here to talk about some of the top stories that we're following. And the first thing that I want to ask you about is a human trafficking investigation underway right now. And so this is some footage that our team captured a little bit earlier today, this aerial view from our Atlanta News First helicopter on the scene there. And so what we've learned now, 20 people have been detained in this human trafficking investigation. It all started with a call to police around 8 o'clock this morning, a 911 call about shots fired. This is according to the city of South Fulton police, and it was coming from a home on the 5400 block of Orly Terrace in College Park, actually. When officers got there, they witnessed the gunshots taking place behind the residence, and this evolved, and they learned from neighbors that there had actually, according to the city of South Fulton Police Chief, there had been complaints about illicit activity occurring in and around this particular residence. Also, the chief going on to say we've had complaints about possibly sex trafficking, and so we've not ruled out that possibility for this particular location being involved in that type of activity. And just going on to say that they are doing a thorough investigation. Now, Suri, so again, we're talking about 20 individuals, at least 20 individuals who've been detained. We've learned from police that these are mostly females who have been detained, and there are 2 people who are currently wanted as well. Police believe these individuals range in age anywhere from 16 to 39 or 40 years old. Suri, you and I have been talking about this before we actually went up on the live stream, and you're very, very concerned about the way that this so-called bust, this investigation is being conducted, and the fact that you've got so many women in particular being detained. Tell me why.
Let's get to the fact of just the language they're using. These are supposed to be victims, okay? You went somewhere because there was gun shootings or complaints by the neighborhood, and you show up and you find mostly women, very young women, some from as young as 16 all the way to their early 30s. And what do? You detain them. Those are their own words. They're being detained like they're a suspect, like they're a criminal. If this is truly a human trafficking situation, you should treat them as what they are, which is victims. I don't care if they're 16 or they're 55. If they are victims of human trafficking, they should be treated as such and not being detained like a criminal.
So, we were just discussing off camera, being detained and being arrested are in theory different things. Being detained essentially means you're being held for an investigation. Being arrested means there's probable cause for your arrest and there are charges forthcoming, right? But really, what is the difference?
Well, the legal difference is that when you're being detained, an officer has reasonable articulable suspicion that a crime happened, right? They can articulate a reason for them to be there and continue to investigate. You might be a person of interest. You might be somebody that they need to look into, whether you're a witness, a victim, or a possible suspect. So they ask you to stay there. You can't go anywhere. You're not under arrest yet, but you're also not free to move around and go wherever you want to go. If you don't want to be there, you can't just walk away. When you're arrested, they have reached the point where there is probable cause that you committed a crime. It's more likely than not that a crime was committed by you. So now they're going to put handcuffs on you and they're going to put you in the back of the patrol car and take you to jail. But sometimes when you're being detained, they still put handcuffs on you. So that's what's crazy. To the cops, the reality is that the key difference between being detained and being arrested is that when you're detained, you're not entitled to be read your Miranda rights. When you're arrested, they have to read your Miranda rights before they ask you any questions. That's really the thing that we're going to fight about if this goes to court. We're going to have a motion to suppress. But let's go back to the person. That individual, they don't care whatever you call it. They're still not free to go. They're still having to sit next to the street and be humiliated. Imagine they're a victim. They're still being there as a lineman. They're sitting there with 16 or 20 other women and not allowed to leave. If you were the victim of a crime and somebody comes to rescue you, wouldn't you want to go home instead of being detained?
Yeah, absolutely. You make a great point. And, we have talked to each other about how views on, human trafficking have changed, how what we used to really describe as prostitutes are often actually human trafficking victims. And that's something that, many states, have changed kind of law and policy surrounding that, surrounding charges against individuals who may have previously been charged with solicitation, right? Are now treated as victims. What is that law? What does that look like here in Georgia?
Well, they're supposed to be treated as victims, but mostly it goes as a protection to minors, right? Anybody that's under the age of 17 should be treated as a victim, and they get the services they deserve. And the reality is that some of these cops don't understand that. What they understand is, we're going to arrest you, we'll put charges on you, and when you say you want to cooperate and you want to snitch on whoever was managing you or helping you get clients, then you get treated as a victim. But if you don't want to cooperate, you're going to jail and you get in charge with prostitution.
Okay. Are you concerned that with the detentions that have happened today in this investigation that maybe some victims are being re-traumatized?
Absolutely. I mean, let me tell you this. There is no good reason why a 16-year-old was supposed to be at that house. No reason at all. They're probably a runaway. They are probably coming from a broken home, or they might come from a great home, but they just have other issues, and they left their home, and somebody took advantage of that very dangerous situation. They were very vulnerable, and they promised them, money, clothes, anything to come over here, and eventually, if it's not happened already, they're going to make them sell their body. So that in itself is a stream of trauma they've already gone through. And now, when the cops get there, they're detained. So even add more trauma to a very difficult life that these young women are already experiencing.
I mean, I appreciate your perspective on that. Really do. And, of course, we're working to learn a little bit more information about what exactly has happened here. And here's some footage that our team captured a little bit earlier today. The site of this human trafficking investigation, where 20 people were detained. And this is Orly Terrace in College Park. City of South Fulton Police involved in the investigation. Any other thoughts on this topic before we move on?
I mean, it seems like this type of things happen in plain sight. That's a beautiful suburb of South Fulton. It doesn't look like it's the dangerous Atlanta that everybody tries to stay away from. People got to be vigilant, and sometimes there's things happening right next door to you, and it's good to have a good relationship with your neighbors and know what's going on.
Absolutely. Okay. I want to talk to you about another hot topic that we continue to follow, and this is the, alleged improper relationship between Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis and Special Prosecutor Nathan Wade, who she tapped to help lead the investigation into the former President Donald Trump and his co-defendants in the election interference case. And so now the newest development here is that Ms. Willis and Mr. Wade have both been subpoenaed to testify. I believe it's a date of February 15th. There's a committee investigating their alleged improper relationship, and there's a lawsuit by defendant Michael Roman, one of Mr. Trump's co-defendants, a lawsuit by Mr. Roman alleging, that basically some of the documents relevant to all this have not been turned over and should have been. Suri, so what do you make of all this?
It's just the never-ending drama. I think we're on season 72 of this telenovela. It's very interesting. I mean, people love it. It's all over the news. It's all over YouTube. It's salacious. People like to know about what consenting adults do in the privacy of their own room. I still don't see the relationship that this has with the evidence in the case in chief as to whether or not Mr. Trump and the 19 co-defendants, whether or not they committed a crime. And I think the best people to figure that out is going to be a jury. A jury should decide whether or not the state has met its burden of proving if these allegations of criminal activity happened or it didn't happen.
So now Willis and Wade have been subpoenaed to testify, I understand, but they can file a motion to quash that subpoena, is that right? So maybe they don't have to testify?
I expect for very great lawyers in that office to file a motion to quash the subpoena. Why? Because what is the relevance? The information that's being sought after, and it's not only Mr. Wade and the DA Willis, it's also their security. Some members of security, members of the staff are being subpoenaed. Again, what is it that they can say that will change the outcome of the case. If they have evidence that evidence has been suppressed, destroyed, what is called Brady evidence, exculpatory evidence, has been hidden from the defense or has been deliberately destroyed, that is very important to know. But what they're doing in their own free time, I just don't see the relevance. But again, Ms. Merchant is an impressive attorney. She has an incredible track record. She fights zealously for her clients. So I'm very curious to see what is the basis for the motion in this testimony. But I expect the judge to say, even if they all agree that, there has been dates and there has been, let's say, nepotism, that doesn't change the facts of the case. This can be saved for something else. This has nothing to do with the case in chief. So let's move on and let's have a trial.
Okay. Somewhat related to that, I also just want everyone to know that certain GOP senators here in Georgia, I should say two specifically Republican state senators, are proposing a bill to drop the RICO charges in former President Donald Trump's election interference case. Of course, all of this, driven by the investigation led by Willis and Wade. And the senators here are Colton Moore and Brandon Beach. They want to amend the state's RICO statute. They want to prohibit racketeering prosecutions related to certain offenses, including the charges that Donald Trump faces. Of course, as you might guess, the bill is not expected to become law. It's not endorsed by Georgia's GOP leadership. That said, Suri, what do you think of it?
Well, let's look at it. I think I've seen it, the little excerpt of it. It says that racketeering prosecutions that involve fraud should not happen, that involve false documents should not happen, that any charges that were brought after July 31st of 2023, is that what it is? Those should be dropped. So they're not saying that people didn't commit crimes. They're just saying, I want to help my friend, and my friend should, even if they did fraud, should not be prosecuted because I want to change the law and let fraud done by my friend be okay. I wish I could see their same energy and their same retroactive effect when it comes to marijuana. Let's do this. Let's do this. I'm fully on board. Let's decriminalize marijuana and let's take all these convictions and current prosecutions, let's take them off the table and throw them away because that has hurt millions of people. And then we can talk about helping your friend and the fraud that they allegedly committed.
Sir, you always have very, very strong opinions, and I appreciate you sharing them with us. Any final thoughts on this whole saga? Like you mentioned, I mean, it's kind of become a little bit of a telenovela that's not knocking anyone involved in it, but it's just there's so much, drama that is continually unfolding. What do you think are we going to see next, and what should we be watching for?
I think this is all great marketing for the candidate running for office. That's how we got here to begin with. We give them all this media attention, and people get interested, and people vote. Some people feel very strong one way, and a lot of other people feel very strong the other way. And sadly, all this media attention is probably going to end up helping this campaign.
I want to ask you while we have you here about the YSL case, and of course, the testimony continuing, and we've heard numerous law enforcement witnesses in the last day or so, and it's something that, of course, we're going to continue to hear. We're going to continue to watch. I just want to give our viewers a live look for just a moment here inside the Fulton County Courthouse where the that trial has been underway, and we're just showing the seal, and we do that because we don't want to show jurors if court is off the record, if they're on a lunch break or so forth. We don't want to show something we're not supposed to show. But if you want to watch this gavel to gavel, just go to our special event stream and you can watch that. But Suri, what are your thoughts on the way that this trial has been going, and really the latest developments?
It's today is February 1st. In 3 days
Right.
is going to be the 1 year and 1 month anniversary of when this trial started. You can see it in their faces. You can see Mr. Williams, just the fatigue. He has been in that courtroom for over a year, just hearing a bunch of nonsense. I think part of the stuff I saw yesterday was about officers that were giving each other tips in what charge to give. something along the lines, if you charge him with reckless driving, then you can get into the car, which clearly shows that they had no evidence, they had no reasonable articulable suspicion, they had no probable cause to search Mr. Williams' car, but they knew he's a celebrity, they knew that was his car, and they were going to find any way possible to get into it and see what they could find. And obviously, whatever they found is not coming in because it was an improper search. But the state was fighting and fighting to try to get into what has been deemed as an improper search. And this is why this trial is taking so long. Sometimes you win some motions, sometimes you lose. As a defense attorney, we lose a lot of them. But you know what happens? You move on. You move on to the next fight. You keep doing your job. The state in this particular prosecution, they get ruled against, they bring it back. They get ruled against again, they bring it back, and they bring it back. And this is why it's taken a year and a month so far, and it's probably going to take at least another year to get through this case, because the state just doesn't understand that no means no.
Another year?
I expect it to take that long. We had one young man testify for 3.5 weeks, and that's only one of the 8 people that are supposedly turning state witness. All of them have a lot of information that the defendants want to know about. What is your motivation to say that YSL is a gang? Why is your motivation to now be here to help the state? And it really comes down to one thing. I got to go home. If I help the state, I can go home to my family because I didn't do anything wrong, but I'd rather be home than sit in bed by Rice Street.
Suri, so if people want to, hire you if they're looking for legal representation, what kind of cases do you take? And how do people reach you?
I take all criminal cases. I mean, anywhere from jaywalking to RICO. I guess RICO is my expertise nowadays. I have way too many RICO prosecutions going on right now. But yeah, anything that's criminal related, please call me. Personal injury, you can call me as well. You Google me, find me, and I always answer my phone.
Not always.
Oh, well, not, only when you call.
I do want to leave our viewers with one more live look inside the Fulton County Courthouse, where the YSL trial is resuming. And we're just showing the seal because there's nothing happening right now in the courtroom, but as soon as we can, we are going to broadcast it live. And again, gavel-to-gavel coverage on our special event stream, our secondary stream here on Atlanta News First Plus. Thank you so much for joining us, and we're going to return you back to our regular programming. Have a great day.